This week, we will be discussing the Scholastic News version or the Scholastic News issue, The Volcano That Stopped Summer. Before we read and discuss the issue, let's talk about some extreme weather. Now, we live in eastern North Carolina, and from about August all the way through November, we have a season of extreme weather. Can you think about the name of what kind of season is that we get concerned and we have to watch the weather not only around North Carolina, but we have to watch it in the oceans? That's right, hurricane season. Our area was devastated by Hurricane Florence a couple years ago, and some neighbors to the east last season had damage from Hurricane Dorian. So hurricanes are some wild weather that our neck of the woods has to deal with. Now, if you were to go and travel, let's say to the central United States, some wild weather they might experience might be tornadoes. Yes, we had a tornado a few days ago. It was very, very minor. But the tornadoes that happen in our states like Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, they experience very dangerous tornadoes that show up very quickly without warning sometimes, and the wind mile per hour is much higher than the tornadoes we get here in eastern North Carolina. Some other extreme weather from where I came from in western Pennsylvania in the spring, we can get storm showers that will pour down a bunch of rain very quickly that causes what is called flash flooding. Flooding happens when there is no place for the water to go as quickly as it's coming down, and it can be dangerous for anyone who happens to be in the way of the rushing water. Another extreme weather event that will happen in some parts of the world are tsunamis. We have tsunamis, we have earthquakes, we have a whole bunch of different types of wild weather or wild phenomenons. So let's go ahead and let's view some of these wild weather that they're talking about, and let's get familiar with what's going on. Now, of course, before we watch our video, we need to be familiar with these questions because we're going to be answering them once we're finished. We need to know what a name of a swirling funnel-shaped cloud is called. Also in the video, what is one thing that could happen during a hurricane? And 3, describe what it is like during a drought. All right, boys and girls, let's go ahead back and we're going to watch the video, Wild Weather.
Wild weather. Most of the time, weather is pretty ordinary, sunny or cloudy, breezy or calm. But every so often, weather can get wild. Shut the windows, go in the basement, a tornado is coming. It is one of the most dangerous kinds of weather. Thunderclouds meet strong winds and form into a huge, swirling, funnel-shaped cloud. When tornadoes touch the ground, their winds can lift heavy objects up into the sky. An umbrella won't help much in this storm. It's a hurricane. A hurricane is a big rainstorm with strong winds. Hurricane winds blow at least 74 miles per hour. That's faster than a car on a highway. Hurricanes can cause big problems, like floods. Water fills the streets. People may need boats to get around. Houses and cars can be damaged. Wild weather doesn't have to mean wet weather. When there is a drought, there isn't any rain for a long time. Crops dry up, rivers and streams get low. It can be hard for animals to find a drink. There can also be dangerous heat waves. That's when the temperature is unusually hot for a long period of time. In a heat wave, it's important to stay in the shade or stay inside and drink lots of water. In winter, one kind of extreme weather is a blizzard. A blizzard is a really big snowstorm. Many feet of snow fall very quickly. Powerful winds shake trees and knock down power lines, and whiteout conditions make it impossible to see just a few feet in front of you. Lucky for us, weather is pretty ordinary most of the time. Weather forecasts let people know what the weather will be like in the days or even weeks ahead. That way, they can be prepared if wild weather is on the way.
Okay, let's go ahead back to our watch a video and help me fill in this. Help me fill this in. Okay, so it says students can read the questions before we watch the video. We did that. That way they'll know what to pay attention to while watching. So number 1 says, a swirling funnel-shaped cloud is called a hurricane, tornado, or drought. A hurricane, it does swirl around, it does make, but it is not usually funnel shaped. A tornado, that sounds closer to our definition, doesn't it? But let's look at our third choice, drought. No, it's definitely not drought. So in this case, we're going to mark down that it is tornado. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to put an X on there. There we go. Okay. Number 2. What is one thing that could happen during a hurricane? Now, with our question, we always restate it in our answer. So what is one thing that could happen during a hurricane? One thing that could happen during a hurricane is, do you remember? Now this should be a fairly easy question because we've experienced Florence. So before Florence, during Florence, and after Florence, can you think of something that you experienced personally? In the video, they mentioned flooding. So what's one thing that could happen during a hurricane is flooding, right? Maybe you want to put down that the wind can knock things over. We can put down that people can lose their homes. Put down that we lose our electricity. That places are closed and we can't get to. Something that could happen during the hurricane is we weren't able to have school for almost a month. So those are all things that can happen during a hurricane. Number 3, describe what it's like during a drought. Now they showed a few pictures. I remember vividly they showed a picture of an ear of corn. Do you remember what you saw when you saw that ear of corn? Did it look tasty, like something you would want to eat? Not really. Why was that? Yes, because those corn kernels were dry and they were not juicy at all. So describe what it's like during a drought. So I'm going to restate the question. during a drought. So what happens? Everything dries out. They also said about the animals. What happened with the animals? Animals can't find water to drink. Is there something else? You don't need to add all this. I'm just adding some ideas. During a drought, everything dries out. Animals can't find water to drink. And what was it? Rivers and lakes get low. Remember they showed the picture of the boat, and the boat was out of the water because the water was so low. All right. So if you didn't have a chance to finish this, you need to finish this for today. One more thing before we go. Let's take a look. Oops. Clear. Sorry. Let's take a look at the vocabulary words that we are going to see in this Scholastic News.
Volcano, an opening in the earth where gas, steam, ash, and hot liquid rock burst through.
Okay. Do you remember talking about volcanoes before? We did talk about them at the beginning of the school year.
Erupted. When a volcano erupts, it shoots out rocks, hot ashes, and lava.
Do you remember when we did our experiment with the vinegar and the baking soda? When we put it together to make a chemical reaction, that liquid erupted out of our containers. So when it says erupted, it doesn't just have to be rock, hot ashes, and lava. When you could say, when I add Mentos to my Diet Coke, the Coke erupts out of the bottle.
Lava. Hot liquid rock that flows out of a volcano.
Do you think where this arrow's at, any human, plant, or animal could be standing there? You're right. People cannot be this close to the lava because this is hotter than any top of your stove, in the oven, super hot.
Crops. Plants grown in large amounts, usually for food. Corn is a crop.
Think about the crops that grow around Maysville. I'm thinking about tobacco crops. I see soybean crops. And the big thing around here, cotton. Now, is cotton a food? No, but cotton is an important crop that we need to make clothing. Okay, so this week, familiarize yourself with these vocabulary words because you will be seeing them again. Tomorrow we'll be reading the Scholastic News issue and going over the read and think questions. Join me then.